Hi guys, it's Ray. Today I am going to do a two-tone glitter tumbler. I have LMNOP Design Boutique's Rainbow Fish, and I have their Tiffany's Fine. So I'm going to start at the bottom for this one and work my way up. I already coated this with about 5 or so mLs of Chaos Resin Liquidy Split. And I will get links to everything down in the description. I'm kind of letting the chunky waterfall up. Like keeping it solid to a certain point. And then tilting the cup and letting it flow upwards. I've got to stop and refill my cup though. So oops. Or, you know, dump half of it on my table. 'Cause why not? I do want to kind of make sure I have a little bit somewhat even all the way around. I don't necessarily want it all the way to the top, but if a couple reach the top, it's not a big deal. Okay, so this is pretty chunky. I'm going to set it down and clean up this a little bit. And I still actually have quite a white spot at the bottom. So I'm going to just roll this in that's underneath. Because this glitter on this bottom paper is probably not going back in the bag. Okay, now I'm satisfied. So I'm going to set that on my holder just a minute. And save what I can of that. I'll pour the rest back in the bag because I am done with that. And I'm going to move on to the Tiffany's. Grab another piece of paper. And I'm going to start at the top. Hopefully this is a good combination. In the bags they look good together, but the Tiffany's might be too pale of a blue. But I thought it might be a good mermaidy cup combination. Make sure you overlap towards the bottom over that chunky. Just to fill in any gaps. It's actually quite pretty. I do have a little contamination on this sheet, so this will be going into my dump jar, not into my baggie. And I'm going to go over it again. Just to be sure of my coverage, especially that center section where there might be some white showing through where the waterfall was done. Alright, so I'm going to pop this on the turner. I'm going to let it spin for an hour or two, and because I used that liquidy split, I'll be able to flood coat it sooner rather than later. Okay, I am back with this one. This is going to get, with Brave Wings She Flies, and then a couple of these little hummingbird tattoos. So I'm going to trim my tattoos down right now. It just makes it easier if you don't have all of that excess all around it. So, and I'm going to set them someplace dry for the moment. Sorry. Alright, let's set that aside. I'm just using a board to transfer because the tattoos are getting my surface a little bit wet, and I don't want to get my vinyl wet. So I'm just using it on there, but burnishing it down. And then I will flip over and burnish from the back. And I like to peel the backing off. It is much easier to roll it backwards than try and lift it from the front. So that is how I do that process. I'm going to look at this real quick and make sure that's where I wanted it. And it is, because this is where I think the lowest blue goes. So I'm going to line that width up pretty tight to the top. This is a much larger transfer tape piece than I needed for this one, but okay. So the little tattoos, obviously they're going to be opposites, so I'm going to peel the front off. I'm going to have to do them separately. So I think I got too much of my water over there. Go ahead and press it on. When you do your tattoo tumblers, it's very much like when you do a water slide tumbler. You need to let it dry completely before you put the epoxy over it. Depending on your environment, it can be pretty quick with the tattoos, actually. So they seem to dry quicker than the water slides because you're not really getting your cup wet first, so there's no water really underneath. And I think I'll put this one at this angle. The tattoos aren't really repositionable. You can't, like, once they're on the cup, they're on the cup, because that's why they have that protective paper, is because they're somewhat sticky on their own. So be very careful when you go to set it down. You may have seen me in a couple of videos now where they didn't quite land exactly where I wanted. And once that happens, you're kind of stuck with it. But they look really cute on there. I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to let this dry and I will get some epoxy on it. Okay, this is ready for a good coat of resin. This is going to get a little bit heavier a coat because the chunky is still pretty rough. I didn't wait until it was smooth to do the decals because the decal wasn't going over the chunky and the fine was smooth enough after the flood coat, so it wasn't necessary to wait and add extra layers. So it's going to get a pretty thick coat. I'm using KS Resin Liquidy Split Ultra UV. So it is getting pretty warm pretty quickly. And this may still need one more coat after this. I don't really think that this coat is going to completely fill in that chunky. But that'll be just another regular old clear coat. So it's not going to alter the look of the tumbler in any way, other than smoothing it out. I do have little white showing under the chunky. This really could have been base painted a color other than white. I don't really mind the white showing through, but it could have been base painted like the pale blue or something. I didn't really plan to do this cup. It just kind of happened when the glitter showed up. So I went with what I already had base painted that day since it was raining. And what I had base painted was a bunch of white cups that were earmarked for other projects. So, alright, I will take you down for a close-up in a bit after this resin starts to set up some. And that will be it for this one. I think it came out super cute. I'm pretty pleased with the decal choice and whatnot. So, I will be back in a bit. Okay, time for a close-up. There's one little hummingbird with Brave Wings she flies. The other hummingbird. There's that chunky mix with tons and tons of colors. It is going to get another coat. There's one tiny spot somewhere here on the bottom, but really that's about it. So I will take care of that one spot. I will clean up the rim and then recoat that, but that is it. Other than that, she is done.